Wasn't expecting to see this lovely Dino tonight. The owner of this MGB GT is actually 9 years old. This Jensen CV8 really gleams in the evening sunlight, doesn't it? Morris Marina Coupe's off. Today on CarTraction, or tonight on CarTraction, you join us at the wonderful Tern Hill Hall, and we are here tonight because tonight is the evening of a very special evening classic car meet. We've been here once before in the Mazda MX-5, and today we're here in the Jaguar XJ8, which is really, in my opinion, cheating. It's not a classic car, but it's been a bit naughty recently, so we need to give it some purposeful test runs. It's passed so far already, but it's always on the way back from the show that you break down, so that is yet to see. And also, the evening draw in quite early now, and obviously it's getting dark, and you really don't want like old 6-volt lamps with the likes of a Renault 4CV, a Ford V8 Pilot, or a 1947 Dodge pickup. Those lights are really useless in the dark light, but it's great to see this Triumph 2.5 PI out and about on this, what I've got to say is an absolutely lovely evening. So in today's video we're going to be looking at all of the classic cars, both slightly more modern classics and the traditional classic British cars, and from all corners of the globe. So I think very shortly we'll head over to the Arrivals Lounge for tonight's evening classic car meets, and yeah, see what classic cars turn up tonight. Next to arrive is this fantastic Series 1 Jaguar E-Type. This Jensen CV8 really gleams in the evening sunlight, doesn't it? Fantastic looking car, that. Great to see we've got a fair few interesting classic British cars arriving already at tonight's evening classic car meet. Road Rally Spec Triumph TR4. That is one lovely XK120. Herald 1360. We've got a fantastic forecast for the evening after a day of rain, so hopefully that'll drag out a few of the older cars. Will we see any pre-war 20s and 1930s cars? Fingers crossed.
It's all the same thing.
Oh, right, okay. You've seen loads of these, like they pop up on Facebook and they don't put them. Yeah.
That is one good looking fastback Mustang with the great Dodge Charger RT in front. Those are two very iconic American muscle cars, actually the cars that were both starred in the Bullitt film, actually quite iconically together. So yeah, great pair. Now what is this in the distance? The front of it almost looks like a Citroen Ami, but the rest of it looks like a VW Corrado, but it's smaller. What badge is that? What does it say? What does it say? Oh, Midas! Oh, right, okay, that's a Midas. Midas made some very obscure cars in their time, and yeah, that's certainly quite obscure, that one. All sorts of cars and trucks and bikes are trickling in steadily, but don't worry, this is but a fraction of the whole turnout we'll be seeing tonight. This Rover P6 has really put his badge bar to the test with that lot. Little mini clubman. Wonder where the Ranger's been. Pairing of Triumph TRs. I think it's a TR4 up front, which looks very cool in the road rally spec, and that is either a TR5 or a right hand drive converted TR250. I'll find out in a mo. Yeah, very throaty sounding TR4. There's maybe some big cams in it, you know, open intake, something like that, but that's a fantastic pair of classic British sports cars. That has the registration 12VC, so that's might warrant a bit of further investigation. And it is a TR5, so it's an original UK market car, as opposed to the American market TR250, 2.5 litre Triumph straight 6, making a lovely burble. I do like that one. Now I know it is still very early and there will be a lot more cars turning up here, but I just wanted to look at these. As soon as I saw these coming in, I just thought, wow, this is a fixed head coupe, Jaguar XK120. Fixed head obviously being hardtop. There was the Roadster and the drop head coupe. That's just fantastic. This car will have a 3.4 litre twin cam Jaguar XK straight 6. It's 1952. It's a winner of the Cheshire Concours d'Esprit, this car, which is the concourse event held at the Autumn Park Gold Cup, of which I have made a video if you have a little scroll on the channel homepage here. But yeah, it's a steel-bodied car. This one, so it's not the earliest of the earliest. They did make aluminium lightweight body cars before these. 1954 tax disc. So it's a steel body, but still absolutely fantastic. There's a gorgeous pair of like vintage timing clocks in there. The shifter for the Moss gearbox, which is meant to be quite an awkward gearbox to use, but I'm sure just as the Triumph rolls past, I think I could probably endure a bad gearbox just to drive something that gorgeous. I'm sure it's not a bad gearbox at all when you compare it to the likes of the 3-speed on the tree. So 3 on the tree, I should be saying, 3-speed column change on the likes of our Ford V8 Pilot, you know, and nothing apart from that is pretty advanced. So yeah, that is one fantastic Jaguar XK120, and just next to that, a bit more Jaguar goodness. This is a Series 1 E-Type. I know the owner of this car, I've interviewed him before, and this, well, it's not a conventional E-Type, it's sort of a semi-lightweight modification. It was owned by a Frenchman in the sort of 60s, he used to drive it to his yacht and back, wanted to make it look a little bit cooler, so that's why he got this sort of, what the owner called this Wallace and Gromit finish with the wide arches, like a semi-lightweight, debumpered, very cool stance indeed on the larger wheels and rims. You know, it just looks great, this car. Left hand drives, I think it was an original US market car, this particular Series 1. The lightweight style of front with the glass covers over the lamps. That is one absolutely great looking pair of classic Jaguars. This one will either have a 3.8 or a 4.2 litre XK straight 6, so a larger bored out variant of the original XK engine design in the XK120 there. But yeah, I just had to look at these because these are just fantastic classic British sports cars. TVR Chimera in red. Good looking car actually in that colour. You don't see many red ones, usually they're blue. Well, I wished for something pre-war, and there you go, that is a Ford Model A. 4-seat Tourer pre-war. Flathead 4-cylinder in there is like 3.3 litres. I think that car does get around quite a lot. Interesting in being right-hand drive as well. That is quite rare. I do like those Ford Model A's, and a very cool stickered up Mark IV Triumph Spitfire. Plenty more arriving now. Got to the time where the cars start to pile in. That is one very purposeful looking little Mini. And Ford Escort, these are getting ever more popular by the day. I think that's an RS 1600i, that one, judging by those decals. With a TVR Griffith, that one is, in light blue. That looks very, very smart. I'm sure that will join the Chimera somewhere this evening. Couple of Ford Focuses, this one with the bonnet delete modification to show off his very, very modified engine. Funky little Renault 5, that's a GT Turbo, that one, so one of the top of the range, you could say, publicly available Renault 5s. These are of course very desirable and iconic for the Renault 5 Turbo rally cars. I suppose you did have the Turbo. This is the GT Turbo, which is probably the most usable out of the turbocharged variants of the Renault 5 shape. While it may not look like it, this is actually a Ford Escort. So this is the Anderson we saw coming in just a few minutes ago. I didn't know it was called Anderson at the time, but this is meant to be a sort of homage, you could say, to the likes of the 1920s Anderson American, like big grand pre-war Tourers. We'll just divert for a second to look at the Capri and this very, very sharp Series 1 Daimler Sovereign. That is very, very nice. I do like that one. So yes, this is a later creation. It's based on a Ford Escort engine, gearbox and like drivetrain, stuff like that. It's built by an amateur car manufacturer in 1988 apparently. To be honest, it's actually really quite good. If you were to put that on a sort of old style plate, that isn't a Q plate, that would actually be a really convincing car. I do like how it's got all these old touches. The steering wheel is sort of not too shinied up, it actually looks kind of old, and the dials are very much sort of old in their style, apart from the ashtray or whatever that is one there, but it's actually quite a convincing car, this. And I know a lot of people don't like replicas because it's not the real thing, obviously, in Anderson. Don't know much about them like that, but it's probably a lot of money, and you know, if someone gets some fun out of it, then you know, it might have saved a Ford Escort that maybe had a rotten body and someone decided to build this Anderson homage out of it. So I think that's fair enough, to be honest. It's good to see it being used. And here's actually a genuine pre-war car. This is probably 1930, or at least very early 1930s. This is a Ford Model A. I think it's an Australian car, this one, because it is right-hand drive. Now, a lot of these sort of pre-war American cars were built as a sort of like the engine and front of the car with like all the chassis and drivetrain, and then they were bodied by separate companies, which would explain this rather strange body on this one with these small two doors and then just sort of climb over in the front. But those were often sent to Australia, which is obviously right-hand drive. If this were, say, an American market car, the steering will be over there on the left. So this is either an Australian market car or a South African market car. I think I've whittled it down to that. It's probably slightly more likely to be an Australian market car, but I'm not too sure. The owner of this certainly does get a lot of use out of it, which is the best thing, you know. It looks really good on these huge sort of wire wheels. That's a really early style of wire wheels on these, of course. Drum brakes all around on this, actually. We used to have a 1924 Dodge Full Tourer, and that only had drum brakes on the rear, nothing on the front. That's a Peugeot 205. Oh, trickling in now. Got the Mark IV Triumph Spitfire here, all stickered up and looking very jazzy indeed. Haven't seen this guy before. Getting some new arrivals tonight, newcomers to the CarTraction YouTube channel walkarounds. And that's quite an eye-catching little car, that is. An achievable classic car for someone like me in a couple of years or so. And here we have this very tastefully modified Mini. This is actually, see how it's like a 1980s era Mini, but it's sort of done up maybe in the likes of a sort of slightly older modified style of Mini. I don't know, but it certainly does look very sharp. Got the rear opening windows. It is a good looking car, this one. I do like that. And the spot lamps on the front. I'm sure that will bring back memories of the Italian Job for quite a few viewers. If you do have memories of any of the cars here, wow, what is that? And do let us know in the comments section below. I don't even know what that is either. Mid-engined or something like that. That one, I think those deserve a little bit of inspection later on. If you think this car park up here is pretty full, then wait until that one down there fills up. Won't be long, and yeah, it's a big field down there, and last time it was absolutely full, so yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of the enthusiast cars just like this peculiar creation tonight. Wasn't expecting to see this lovely Dino tonight. I love the look of that in dark blue. Blackout style headlamp covers on this vintage Austin. Own it in appropriate attire. Nice to see a Mark 1 MX-5 out, of course, with the pop-up headlamps up. The little yellow California is probably sulking at home today as we pick the XJ8 for tonight's particular evening meeting. It's good to see another one, another original UK market car. On a bit of further inspection, I believe at some point this was actually a Daimler Sovereign, or effectively a Jaguar XJ, because look at the dials in it. The dials are very, very distinctly Jaguar. Those are obviously Jaguar. The steering wheel looks a bit like Jaguar, but I don't think it is, and the gearbox selector is certainly either Jaguar or Triumph, but it's probably Daimler. With these other clues, it will most likely have the Daimler's XK straight six engine, but it's meant to be pre-war Invicta. This one in it is actually very, very nicely done. I've never really seen a sort of replica one of these, but I'm pretty sure it's obviously got all the sort of modern suspension set around here, which I presume is like Series 1, Series 2, Series 3 XJ. Even got some appropriate side pipes as well, so there's been a lot of work done to this one to get it to look like this. Yeah, it does imitate the sort of pre-war front style very, very convincingly. These lamps are probably a similar age to the likes of the... Oh, no, actually, I think those are sort of designed to be sort of replicas of the original sort of Lucas King of the Road pre-war lamps. They are Lucas, but I don't think they're as early as the pre-war lamps that should be on that one. So yeah, I think at one point in its life, this used to be a Daimler Sovereign, which is the upmarket version of the Jaguar XJ, Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, no real clue. But yeah, that is very, very convincingly done, and just next to that is this fantastic Mark II Jaguar. Look on the badge, this is a 2.4 litre, so this is the smallest iteration of the XK Jaguar straight six engine design we've actually seen all evening. We've seen 3.4s, 3.8s, 4.2s, so this is actually the smallest in this Mark II Jaguar Saloon, which does look very, very handsome indeed. Available as a manual and automatic. And then look at this, a lovely, lovely Dino. This is a 246 GT. Could be calling it a Ferrari, but I'm not, because of course though you will not find any of the prancing horse badges anywhere on this one. It does officially count as a Dino. Gated manual gearbox. There's mid-mounted V6 in these. That's just under that flap there. Then you got a little bit of boots back here. Yeah, most Ferraris or Dino Ferraris, but it's basically a Ferrari. We usually found them in red and a few yellow, but I've never seen the blue one before. I think that looks really, really spectacular in that colour like that. There's a Lotus Elise just rolling in over there. You can get a little shot of the interior there. I'm sure that drives absolutely fantastic with that lovely, probably open intake, 6-cylinder sound just behind your head. Beautifully sculpted bodywork. Really, really do like that one. I'm sure that will have a fantastic driving experience. Great, great looking car, this one. More heading in now. That is a Triumph TR4. I've been told that the owner of this MGB GT is actually 9 years old, which That was a throaty rev. But yeah, we're gonna have a look at this. Hi, my name is Henry. I'm 9 years old, and this is my MGB GT. It is my restoration project, and I hope you like it. Dad was actually talking to the youthful owner of this one. I think it was his aunt's car, something passed on to him. So yeah, 9-year-old owner. Obviously, he can't drive it at 9, but it's great to see young people enthusiastic about old cars. You know, it's far from a perfect MGB, but at the end of the day, who cares? It's just someone having fun with an old car, which is what it's all about, really, isn't it? A lot of people sort of respond positively to the likes of young people getting into classic cars. I mean, I suppose I am as well. I'm 16, so just about a year off trying to find the most affordable and the sort of best ratio in between affordability and how old you can go. In a few years, I really want to be in something pre-war. Ford Model Y comes to mind, but an MGB like this actually would be pretty tempting. This is a recessed grille, so it's an early 70s one. These are probably one of the best classic cars to own, to be honest. Fantastic starter car. 100 brake horsepower, perfectly throaty engine, perfectly powerful, you know. Torque peaks nice and early in the mid-rev range, so it's quite usable. They're good to drive. Granddad has one of these. We actually haven't. Dad last had an MGB GT about 6 years ago or something. I don't know, but we have had like one or two in the past. We usually just go for rarer things, to be honest, but certainly as a starter classic, you know, it's really just one of the best classic cars to own if you want to get into classic cars. It's got the 1.8 litre BMC B Series inline 4-cylinder engine. You know, parts are absolutely everywhere for everything you might want to fix on a car like this. They're still affordable because there are so many made. GT and convertibles, or the roadsters, so you've got options as to which body style you'd like, and yeah, it's really great to see this. Hopefully we'll see him later at some point. 9-year-old owner, this MGB GT. Mark 1 MX5, that one looks somewhat modified. The red one we saw earlier, also Mark 1, looked like a really original and unmolested car. And just behind that is this. Now this is a Daimler Sovereign, it's a Series 2, but this car actually has a very interesting mod. Now you might be able to hear it, but that is not the sound of a Jaguar XK straight 6. This car has a BMW diesel engine swapped into it. I don't know why, I wouldn't do it, but that's probably the only BMW diesel swapped Daimler Sovereign maybe in the world, so I suppose it's a one-of-one car as the Audi TT rolls past. Queuing to get in now, got the Morris Marina. I think that was a coupe. Wow, Morris Marina coupe, the two-door one. But that's a real rarity. I'm sure some of you guys remember those in period. MGTF in yellow. That pops great in that colour, doesn't it? An E30 shape of BMW saloon. Probably a 325i, those are the most common sort of enthusiast ones you see. Mini behind. We'll find out what engine this one has in one moment. 320i, so it's a 2 litre in that one. Just beyond the fantastic XK120 we saw earlier, there's a Porsche Targa. Over there, the lift out top. We saw the Series 1 lovely Jag earlier. There's a few Ferraris here. I think that's a 360, that one. The slightly older 308 or 328. I always mix the two up. But there is mid-mounted V8 engine in those, gated manual. So that's quite good to drive. This is much later 430. Over there's a Lotus Elan. That's an S4 fixed head coupe, that one. Little twin cam 4-cylinder in those. Lesser known as the basis for the likes of the Mark 1 MX5. It's an Aston Martin, I think that's the DB9 shape. Ford Mustang, 5 litre Coyote V8 in those. There's Lotus here. I'm sure that drives pretty wild, doesn't it? Ferrari California. Got the Ford Focus RS here with the bonnet delete on that one. Exhibiting the lovely tubular manifold, sort of spaghetti in there for an exhaust manifold system on that somewhat tuned engine. Ford Focus RS, that's a much later one. See if you can find something a little bit older. Got this very tasteful little Mini in this corner. I do like the look of this one. It's the British Leyland era of Mini. I do like the look of the alloy wheels on this one. This is a very common mod for this era of Mini. You've got the cosmic alloy wheels, which does look very sharp indeed on that little Mini saloon. VW bay window camber here, very accessorised. Let's have a look at these accessories. We've got like 20 AA badges on them, but There's some actually really nice pieces of memorabilia up there. That's a really rare AA badge there, really early one. And that's a Motorsport RAC badge now. You will not know. Well, I can't even bear to think what people would pay for one of those. We've actually got one on the Dodge 3-ton Alfa Romeo Transporter, the 1930s straight 8 Alpha, but yeah, some of these badges are actually very, very desirable. On this one, there's a cool plane mascot there. That's like a Avro York or something like that, and then that's a... what is that for? A Royal Air Force Association badge on there. So there's actually some really nice little period accessories on this bay window VW camper van. More modern Porsche here. I think that's the top of the range GT3 RS. I've been informed by a friend, I think that's the 991.2 generation. That's just literally just regurgitating information. I've been told. I know nothing about these modern cars when compared to the proper old ones. I think it's like a 3.8 or 4 litre rear mounted flat 6 in those. I'm sure that is a pretty crazy track car. Very sharp little Lotus Elise here. Gotta love the racing stripes, the go faster stripes on that one, contrasting nicely with the red Mark 1 MX5. This is actually a rarer car than you'd think, because this is an original UK market car. Most of the MX5s you see, the vast majority, are actually badged up as UNOS Roadsters, which are imports. They were not sold here in the UK. This is an original UK market Mazda MX5 Mark 1. So it is actually, the actual name of the car is the Mazda MX-5. It's got a Master Speed badge on it, that's cool. But yeah, the UK market cars really didn't survive as well. They had to put up with salt on the roads, which is a stupid idea in Britain, which is just car killer. So that killed off so many cars like these MX-5s, and that's why these are actually rarer than you'd think nowadays. And just beyond that one is the Mark V Toyota Supra. I do like the look of these. First up is the Triumph TR4 with a 2.5 litre Triumph straight 6 engine, single cam I think it is, straight 6 engine, as opposed to the twin cam setups in some of the Jaguars over there. These will be injected. As I said earlier, these were sold as the TR250 in America, which was effectively the same car, apart from it being left-hand drive, and they ran on carburetors as opposed to the Lucas, I think it's the PI fuel injection system on these, which, to be honest, I would prefer carburetors just because you can actually throttle them a little bit. Having had bad experiences, and Dad always telling stories of bad experiences with old sort of electronics and things, I just want to minimise it and keep it simple with carbs. But I'm sure this car drives fantastically, you know. Vocal exhausts, 2.5 litre straight 6, plenty of grunt, you know. That's a pretty good recipe. And this 60s sports car, and there's another one here. This is slightly smaller now. This could actually be a very, very historic car, because this, if it's not a historic car, this is a Triumph TR4A that's been modified in a sort of period road rally look. But the thing that makes me think it maybe is that registration now. That is like a private registration sort of thing. It's VC is the suffix that was used for the Triumph Works cars, the Triumph sort of Works rally cars. Now, I don't know whether is 12 VC one of the original cars, or is it just someone trying to look like one of the original rally cars. It is left-hand drive, this one. I think it is actually, yeah, because if we look at all the sort of fittings in this car, we've got the sort of rally timers and the sort of road rally compass in there. But if we look at all the fittings that these are sort of mounted upon, it's all old gear. So I think actually that these fittings, as opposed to sort of being modern timing gear that's been put on 5 years ago, this is actually all old timing gear that's been put on in the sort of 60s when this car would have been competing. So that leads me to believe that this actually might be, in fact, an original Triumph road or rally competition car, as it's suggested by the VC registration. So that could actually be a really, really historic car in left-hand drive. But yeah, judging by the sort of old fittings around the timing gear, I think this could actually be an original Triumph rally car. So that is actually a really historic car potentially. Got the air intakes cut into there. That's quite a cool little mod, one of many mods on this one. And yeah, all these fittings look old, so I think actually I'll have to do some research at 12 VC, but if you do know in the comments below, then that might be somehow one of the original Triumph Works cars that's just turned up at tonight's evening meet. Even if it isn't though, it looks super cool though, very nicely prepared. Just next to that is this Chevrolet Bel Air. Very hot rodded, this one. It's got a huge V8 engine in its up front, twin exit exhausts. Got this sort of riveting along this side, which is actually quite cool, to be honest. It's obviously very, very modified, but it is modified in kind of a period style. That is one absolutely insane gear select. I'd imagine it's an auto, because shifting manual with that would be pretty sketchy. Yeah. Look at that for an engine, a huge V8 engine, single carb actually originally, interestingly. Got a few belts going on around the front there, tubular manifolds. Yeah, that's quite a unit, that is, isn't it? And just here for sale actually is this Triumph. This is a Triumph Herald 1360 Cabriolet. As you can see, this car doesn't actually really have bumpers. We've got the bumper overriders here. But the strange thing with Triumph Heralds is, instead of the sort of chrome bumpers like this bit, continuing all the way around, we've got this sort of weird plasticky sort of painted thing. And apparently that's really annoying to fix actually, because it's kind of like resin, I think actually is the word for it. But yeah, it's a really strange sort of bumper system on the front of these, which was only a thing really with the Triumph Heralds. This is the later 1360 as opposed to the 1250. Very sort of different styling around the front, but they're pretty much well, they are the same car underneath. Yeah, for sale, affordable, well, hopefully affordable, little sort of convertible roadster Triumph for someone there. And this is another Triumph TR4 rally car. This is a later creation. This is just a normal Triumph TR4 that's been later prepared, I think, at some point in its life. It's still a very, very good looking car though. Very nicely prepared. It's sort of prepared to a period spec. And the interesting thing with this one is, if we look down here, this has an Automobile Club de l'Ouest, which is obviously French. It's the West Car Club in sort of West France. And we have the exact same badge on our Renault 4CV, or the Renault 750 at home. So, yeah, that's a curious mod. Maybe a bit of French history, I don't know. It's right-hand drive, so maybe not. Maybe it's just there as a cool badge. But, yeah, that's a really nice modification on this particular Triumph TR4. And this is always one of my favourite cars wherever we see it. Jensen CV8, got the Chrysler V8 and these 3-speed autos, I think. Just a spectacular looking cars, these. But don't worry, as I said, this is just the sort of hard standing parking area. There will be plenty more down there on the grassy bit, but I think these are just spectacular looking cars. The front of these Jensen CV8s are just absolutely stunning. C-Reg, so it's like 65. It's lovely and original interior in this one. That's just such a nice place to be, in the cabin of the Chrysler V8 engine Jensen CV8. And that's not actually another Mark II Jag. This is a Daimler 250, this one. So this is the aluminium block designed 2.5 litre V8 engine actually in this one. That's quite interesting. Twin SU carbs on this one by the look of it. Automatic. Matched up. So is it the Gordon Murray design? I don't know. I don't know what the designer name was of the aluminium block. I think it is Daimler V8, and these also found in the SP250, the Daimler Dart, they're known as. It's the same engine effectively, it's just that they happen to put this same engine design into the Jaguar Mark II chassis. As you can see, that's normally where the inline 6 engine would normally be. But yeah, V8 in this one, another V8 powered car. The Chevrolet 3100 originally, this would have had probably a side valve, 6-cylinder engine, but nowadays this has got a booming V8. I think it was the car we actually heard revving earlier, and if it is, that is quite a bit of kit, that one. Another V8 powered car. This is a Mustang Fastback. Look, these just look fantastic in this green colour, reminiscent of the likes of the Steve McQueen Bullitt car. If you like Bullitt, then keep watching, because we'll be looking at the Bullitt pair that came in earlier in the form of the green, another green fastback Mustang like this, and a Dodge Charger. So that was, yeah, I'm excited to look at those because I do like the scenes in that particular film. Here's the Triumph 2.5 PI. It's a Mark I generation of the Triumph 2000 and 2.5 range, as opposed to the Mark II, which you do see a little bit more often, but any Mark I or Mark II Triumph 2000 is a very rare prospect, and the Mark I 2.5 PI is actually even probably the rarest variant you could get, to be honest. So PI, of referring to the Lucas PI injection system, so this will not be running on carburetors. This one, it'll have an injection system under the bonnet of that one. And then we have leaflets galore and the Jaguar XJ8 Sport. Varying collection of motorbikes and mopeds. That's a cool little sort of modified Honda moped there. There's a Corvette, I think it's the C6 generation of Corvette. This one is very cool in black, and that was followed in by the Mercedes AMG GTR V8 bi-turbo in these. Great looking GT, aren't they? I actually know the son of the owner of this car at the college I go to now. It sounds like they get a fair bit of use out of it. They also have a Fiat Abarth in their little garage. Well, I say little garage, it would have to be a fairly big garage. I suppose it's quite a contrast, isn't it? A huge Mercedes-Benz GT and a great looking little Fiat Abarth. Maybe one day we'll see the Fiat Abarth. It's been to the likes of the car meets and places like that, which we often go to and film to, but they're in the AMG tonight. This is a Ferrari 348, I think this one is, this particular shape. Gated manual gearbox. It's got a mid-mounted naturally aspirated V8 engine in these. It's a 348 Spider, obviously it's a convertible. Those are meant to sound quite good. Now this is the pair I was talking about. Everyone knows that scene, you know, that scene from the Bullitt movie, and it's where a Dodge Charger RT, just like this one, is getting chased down by Mr. Steve McQueen. The bad guys are in the Dodge and the good guy is in the Mustang Fastback. Now this is obviously not a coincidence. This is, you know, this is pre-arranged. You know, these two have turned up together, they bought the right cars. I bet they always park together wherever they go because they just look so cool together. They're exactly like the film, to be honest. Well, pretty much as you could get, but this Charger, Dodge Charger, looks really, really good actually. It looks identical to the one they really smashed up in the film, to be honest. It's still on like the original rim, or like sort of rim covers, you know what I mean, like hubcap covers, which just adds to the period look of this one. And yeah, it's really cool to see these two together. I'd recommend a quick watch of the Bullitt scene, the Bullitt chase scene with the fastback Mustang pursuing the bad guys and the Dodge Charger RT. That's a really cool pair. Very modified Mini, seen this one quite a few times before. I think that's a Ford Orion over there, that's quite rare. Yeah, this Mini is always an eye-catching one, isn't it? I think this is like a Westfield or something, some form of like home built or home modified special here. Variety of engines, could be 4 to 8 cylinders in these, I really don't know. And now this is a curious creation. I think this is actually based on the likes of the MGF or MGTF floor pan, but it's obviously very, very modified, at least aesthetically, probably mechanically modified as well. It's actually quite a cool looking car. It reminds me of like the little Renault Spiders in its sort of shape and design. There's a Mark I Ford Escort van there. Yeah, I actually think it looks like a mini Le Mans car. It looks really cool, this little modified MGTF. You know, there's loads of MGFs and MGTF, so it's hardly sacrilege, you know, and it actually does look quite cool. I'm sure it makes for quite a fun track car, that one, actually. I do like the sort of glass lenses over the headlights of that one. That's a really, really interesting little car. A little bit of rally car goodness here. This is a Mark I Ford Escort. Set of 4 Cibier lamps on the front of that one. Got a little Honda Cub or something rolling around just in front of another Ferrari. Right, another Honda, that's a C70, that one. Right, well, I think it is time to have a wander around the second of actually 3 fields here at the Tern Hill Hall Evening Classic Car Meet. Part of this one is for the public car park, part of it is for the show cars. There's a Peugeot 205 GTI 1.9, the larger 4-cylinder engine, and those also available as the 1.6, but this is the larger one. Ford F-150 Lightning, Dodge pickup there, Mustang, quite a few American ones here. This is like a post-war era Jeep, probably 1950s in date, not the sort of Jeep everyone sort of thinks of instantly. That is of course the wartime Jeep. This is the sort of slightly later, sort of early to mid 50s at a guess, but it is obviously a genuine Jeep. It's not just like some Japanese Mitsuoka or something. We've got some very nice period Gabrielle lamps on, sort of little spot lamps on that. I do like those. They look quite sort of in keeping with the sort of military look. Did this one see service, or has it had a fairly sort of relaxed life? I don't know. Now this is a Chevrolet El Camino, another American car here. Now we got 350 badges on this one, which would suggest a 350 cubic inch Chevy V8, but this looks quite a little bit larger than the original 350, doesn't it? The sun's getting a little bit low, so you might not be able to see, but the engine is vast in this one. It just goes, it's absolutely huge engine. It's got an absolutely massive cooling fan on it as well. I suppose it needs it for such a huge engine, but that looks quite a bit larger than the original 350 cubic inch V8 engine that would have been in that El Camino. So perhaps a little bit modified, I'm sure that would go very, very well. Got the Chevrolet, a bit of everything. Ford Sierra yellow, Porsche Boxster, Audi RS4, Volvo Estate, RS1600i. This is actually quite a curious car, as it is in left-hand drive form. These are quite popular cars in the UK now. People remember them from their youth, but not so many people would remember an RS1600i Escort in left-hand drive form, so I don't know what market this would have been sold for originally. But yeah, left-hand drive form on that RS1600i. Modern classic, I'd say, Ford Escort. Renault 5 GT Turbo here. You can see the little turbocharged, transversely mounted 4-cylinder in these. I'm sure that goes pretty nicely in the corners as well as on the straights of the front. B roads, Honda Civic. And there's a Series 1 Daimler Sovereign, and this is the sort of thing I think that Invicta Special is based on. I think it's either a Series 1 or a Series 2 or a Series 3, but this is a Series 1 with the highest grille. This has got its original 4.2 litre XK straight 6 engine, and that Series 2 XJC Daimler Sovereign has a BMW diesel V8, which for some is cool, but to be honest, you know, the Jaguar XK engine was such a good engine. I suppose if the engine was like wrecked or something in that one, then okay, but like I would have just tried to source another Jaguar engine. For me, this is just obviously me, just personal opinions, but I really don't like diesel engines, so I really do consider putting a BMW V8 diesel in a Daimler Sovereign the wrong thing to do. Other people will agree, other people will disagree. Just offering my personal opinion. Let me know what you think about the BMW diesel swap in the Daimler Sovereign, but personally it's just not for me. I just prefer the lovely burble of the original 4.2 litre XK straight 6 like in this Daimler Sovereign, and this is actually a very rare prospect as we have a manual gearbox. These were sold as 3-speed automatics and 4-speed manuals with overdrive. Very, very few Daimler Sovereigns were available with a 4-speed manual from new, so it's either a very, very rare Series 1 Daimler Sovereign that has a 4-speed manual, or it's since been converted from the 3-speed auto to the 4-speed manual. It could be either. But if it is original, then that's a very, very rare option on that Daimler. There's a little mini rally car over there now. I was looking at this one just a few minutes ago, and it's got all sorts of like period fittings and timing gear which look like they've been installed since new. So I think, judging by that, and in a similar way to the VC Triumph Works TR4 rally car, I think that's actually a genuine like works or period at least rally car due to all the sort of old period timing gear. It is very convincing. So yeah, probably quite a historic car, that one. Got a Fiat Abarth Cup car here, Mark II Escort 1600 Sport, the Chrysler 300C, complete with Bentley badges. This is a Ford Capri, 2.8 litre Ford Essex V6 in this one. Now this is an interesting creation here. Now it looks obviously unfinished. It's sort of, yeah, I think it's an Austin Healey, this one actually, yeah. Now this I think is actually quite an early Austin Healey, because it's not the earliest of all Austin Healeys. We've got the earliest style of dash here. If this was, say, an Austin Healey 3000 Mark II or Mark III, they went to a slightly different style of dash, and I think these earlier style of dials suggest like perhaps a 106 era with the 2.6 litre engine, or at least like a Mark I or a fairly early Austin Healey. We've got just the single seats. It's obviously in the midst of a restoration, this one. Interesting insight to see what the underpinnings of a Austin Healey look like, but here's the sort of business end. This is a BMC C Series engine. So if it's 106, which I can't tell actually from here, it will have a 2.6 litre BMC C Series engine, but it's probably more likely it's a fairly early Austin Healey 3000, which is the big one. So that would suggest a 3 litre C Series straight 6 engine matched up to the twin SU carbs on the side there. I think that's a fairly early Austin Healey 3000 I'd guess, or maybe even 106. We'll have a little scoot around this field and show you guys some of the highlights. Plenty modified cars and sports cars. This is a Triumph TR8, which is the 8-cylinder variant of the usual 4-cylinder Triumph TR7 E30 BMW. This was an especially vocal sounding Triumph TR6. This has the same 6-cylinder 2.5 injected engine as the TR5 we saw earlier. This is obviously the car that came after it. An Audi Cabriolet is a 2.6 in that one, so probably a V6. Porsche 928. I really do like the look of this car in black. Looks really sleek. Yeah, good looking car, that in the evening sunshine. This is a 100E, probably most likely a Ford Popular or a Prefect. No, it wouldn't be a Prefect. I don't know. It's either the, yes, it's the 100E, but judging by the modifications of this car, it's probably the side valve 4-cylinder's probably long gone in this one. It probably has a much later sort of Z-Tech Ford engine or something, resto mod, you know. Still a good looking little car though, with the debumper treatment. Over there's a Mini Cooper S. Those are very desirable cars now, but this is much more my sort of thing. Glorious Mark II Jaguar, this one, a 3.4 litre straight 6 XK engine. So the same size the XK120 saw earlier. It's a manual overdrive car, this one, so 4-speed manual transmission as opposed to an automatic transmission, which I would always prefer. Now a lot of people say that the 3.4s actually drive better than the 3.8, so that might actually be one of the most desirable. Even though it's not the biggest engine, it would, 1, still sound fantastic, and 2, still go pretty well, wouldn't it? And obviously parts are everywhere. XK engines had such a long production life, first seen in the likes of the XK120s in sort of 1950, and it was last seen in the likes of the Daimler DS420 limousine, sort of 86 those went on to, so it had a really long life, the Jaguar XK engine design. So it's probably sort of, you know, there'd be parts around. It was later injected, of course, but this is obviously an earlier carburettor powered Jaguar XK series straight 6 engine, 3.4 litres in that Mark II saloon. MGTF really popping in yellow. Morris Marina Coupe, that must be a real rarity in brown, mustn't it? Yeah, 2-door coupe Morris Marina, eh? It's BMW Z3M. BMW Z3s were available with a wide array of engines, from the likes of a 1.9 litre 4-cylinder to a 3 litre 6-cylinder. They're available as a 2 litre, a 2.2, 2.8 and a 3 litre, the later ones. But this pips them all really, to be honest. This is the Z3M, the wide body obviously, and this has a 3.2 litre engine. It was a limited run of cars as opposed to the likes of the 3 litre series of the BMW Z3. But yeah, this is the Z3M, so it has the E36 M3 3.2 litre straight 6 engine. 321 brake horsepower out of that one, so that would actually be really powerful. Dad and I sometimes think of these as a modern day Austin Healey 3000, you know, sat right over the rear wheels, big engine up front, big straight 6, you know. I reckon that would drive pretty nicely. This is a Saab 900 here, meant to be really strong cars. These were available sort of turbos and non-turbocharged, low pressure turbos, high pressure turbos. This is 900i, so I think that would make this a low pressure turbocharged car as opposed to the high pressure turbo, the full blown turbo. I think it's sort of like, yeah, a low pressure turbo in that one. Maserati Coupe. Just beyond that, there's a couple of Peugeot 107s here actually. Got the yellow one and the silver one. These are looking very modified. There goes the Rover P6 3500S. Now I don't know about this yellow one, but this silver 107 GTI Peugeot. Sounds absolutely brilliant. I think it's got an individual throttle body intake system on this, because the sort of growl from the sort of intake is absolutely just raw on this. It really does sound, you know, it does sound very, very tasty indeed. There's the Clio, I think that's like the Renault Sport 182 Cup or something, a Polo GTI over there, and a Mark 1 Ford Escort rally car. Just as the 340 Jag rolls past, here's the somewhat modified and somewhat used looking, you could say, judging by the mud on this one, which is absolutely fine, don't worry. This Mark 1 MX-5. Now, UK market car, no, this is the Unos Roadster. It's got the import plates. This is the kind of more common variant, and they're often in better condition, these Unoses, because they obviously weren't exposed to the UK road salt like the original UK market Mazda MX-5 we saw earlier was. Obviously these are both Mark 1s, and that also makes our California Mark 1 quite rare, being in acceptable condition, never welded obviously, and one of 300. But this one looks, can I say, used and abused. Body kit and all sorts of going on with this one. I know these are used for sort of low power grassroots drifting and racing and track days and things like that, so yeah, someone gets a fair bit of use out of this Unos Roadster, effectively an MX-5. It's a Cortina Estate. I'm sure that's a really practical car to own actually. This is either a Mark 4 or a Mark 5 shape of the Cortina, but obviously the Cortina Estate. On the steel wheels, nice to see the sort of original base spec wheels. So many of these Fords get modified with Z-Tech engines and mini light wheels, but I actually really like to see sometimes the original base spec steel wheels, so that's actually a real rarity on that Cortina Estate. Porsche Cayman, there's a Golf GTI Mark 1. Just beyond the Peugeot 205 is this very purposeful looking Range Rover Classic. That sits really, really high on those huge off-roading wheels. Let's see what we got on this row. Ford Cabriolet Vauxhall, Morris Minor 1000 convertible, looking fairly modified this one. A couple of Miller spot lamps and a set of 4 Miller spot lamps on the front of this Minor 1000. Got the Wolf Race, or at least Wolf Race style wheels on this one. And the 1000 convertible, looking great in dark blue. Seat Leon or something like that there. It's like a Nissan Estate or something in this one. I'm sure it's quite tunable with that little twin cam. Probably not that small actually. Twin cam 4-cylinder by the looks of it. Just beyond, well, we've got a bit of rallying pedigree here. We've got the Range Rover Classic, which is more sort of Dakar off-roading style. But this is a bit of rally pedigree. Quattro, Audi Quattro, obviously a road car, that one, and I think it's like a road rally homage, because we got no roll cage in this one, which would suggest it's not a competition car. So this is a Peugeot 1.3 Rally 205, which is the sort of sporty road going spec version of the Peugeot 205 shape. It's not a 205 GTI, this is, yeah, it's the 1.3 Rally, but this one is very, very modified with sort of crazy spoilers reminiscent of the turbocharged 16 valve, obviously, Group B cars. So this is not a proper competition car, it's sort of someone's actually crafted sort of the modifications and actually made this one like this Peugeot 106 Rally. And those are actually quite popular little rally cars if you can't quite afford the big turbocharged GTI. And there's the Dodge Ram and the Ford F-150 Lightning. On the end of this row, the Ford Sierra Mustang, that's a Roush one, that one actually, so all supercharged V8 and all that going on, and a Mark 1 Escort van, great shape that. The wonderful Ford Model A tour is off now. Just had a chat with the owner and he told me that unfortunately Jacob could not make it to tonight's evening meet. Apparently Jacob is an avid viewer of my CarTraction YouTube channel, so if you're watching, hello Jacob, and yeah, love your Ford Model A. Keep watching the videos, you know, make sure to put a comment below if you're watching, Jacob. But yeah, I do love a good pre-war car. So off goes the Ford Model A and the Bullitt pair. The Ford Mustang Fastback, followed by the wonderful Dodge Charger RT. They're both off now, making their V8 burbles. Now look at this pre-war pair over here. We'll have a look at the Riley in a moment, but this is an interesting story. I was just chatting to the owner of this one actually. This is an Austin 12, pre-war Austin saloon, but apparently the owner of this one has a CWS Federation. Now, if you don't know what a CWS Federation is, it's my old bike. It's my vintage bicycle that I have. It's a CWS Federation, and I've never heard of anyone else having a CWS Federation. It's a really rare manufacturer of bike. It's wholesale products for the co-op stores, like the cooperative we all know and some of us shop from today. So yeah, the owner of this Austin also has an MGTD, but yeah, most importantly, he has a CWS Federation, just like my one at home. So that's actually really interesting to hear, because I've never even seen another one at another show. You know, CWS must be really rare, so that's very cool to see. And yeah, also in the garage with this Austin 12, as the Porsche Boxster rolls out, among others, yellow pairing with the Lotus Elise. And just beyond the Austin 12 is another beautiful pre-war car. This is a Riley Brooklands special, as the Mustang goes off. Very common VSCC hill climb car, mid-1930s in date. This looks like an actual competition car. I probably filmed it before the likes of the VSCC hill climbing events. 4-cylinder, probably pre-selector. Is it no, non-pre-selector actually, this one. Just a conventional 4-speed crash box. Riley Brooklands, beautiful looking, low-slung classic racer. Just a stunning, stunning vintage race car. Didn't see the Mark II, I think, Ford Transit van earlier. That's another real rarity. Morris Marina Coupe's off. Bit of a late arrival, this one, missed it earlier. This is a fantastic TR250. We saw a TR5 earlier, which is the original UK market 2.5 litre injected car. This is the TR250, as I said, the American market originally, carburetted car, but this one has since been converted to right-hand drive for the British roads, but it still retains its carburetor powered inline 6-cylinder engine, as opposed to the Lucas PI injection system found on the original UK market TR. So this is really, to be honest, for me, the perfect recipe. Right-hand drive and the carburetted engine. You know, debumpered. I think the owner recently fitted some Weber carburetors as well, which is quite a tasty mod. Would help the intake sound growl, you know, from the 6-cylinder engine on that one. But that's really eye-catching in bright blue, isn't it? No, I think this is one very purposeful Riley Elf here. When I heard it coming in, it sounded absolutely insane. Straight cut gears, you know. It sounded like a proper race Mini. Obviously, it's still got the Mini A-Series engine in it, and it looks very nicely prepared. Intercooler, cold air intake, you could say, on the A-Series on this one. You know, that looks a really nicely prepared car. As the Ferrari 308 fires up. And the Jaguar XK120 off. Didn't see that one, unfortunately, actually, but this looks like a really tasty Riley Elf. But I think now I'm going to wrap up tonight's video. We've seen an absolutely amazing array of classic cars, sports cars, a few commercials even, along with the absolutely stunning Dino GT over there. Let me know what you would have driven home. For me, it'd be the CV8 or the Dino, or something else I've completely forgotten about that I really liked and drooled over in my walk around, but do let me know what it is. I think this Dino looks really, really sleek and dark blue though. There's a Ford Fiesta Mark III, didn't get around to looking at that one. Fairly modified one, that's also love. Make sure to subscribe for evening meets, breakfast meets, all day meets, steam rallies. You know, we film a bit of everything here on CarTraction. The TVR Chimera is leading the Renault 5 GT Turbo on their way out. The Ferrari 430, modern mid-engined V8, pop-up headlights on the 308. And yeah, it's been a really, really great meeting at this particular Tern Hill Hall evening. Classic car meet and sports car meet. Enthusiast cars is probably what I'd call them all. Although, actually, I do love the look of that Riley Brooklands. That is a fantastic looking car. But yes, do let me know what you would have driven home and parked in your garage or driveway. And yeah, thanks for watching.